I got on there, a woman said to me, you know, she said, this boat will never reach New York. Oh, I said, don't be saying things like that. Well, she said, I can't help it, but it'll never reach New York.
Hello and welcome to Curious World History. My name is Colleen.
And my name is Albert.
Albert, I am very excited about today. Do you know why?
We're doing the Titanic.
This is the topic that I think you have shown more interest in your life than maybe any other. And you have lots of friends like Campbell and other friends who are super into the Titanic. What is it about the Titanic that's so interesting and captivates so many people? Because a lot of movies have been made about it, songs, everything else. What is it?
It's weird that it sank on its first voyage.
I agree with that. Also, what else about the Titanic makes it kind of a wild story?
Supposed to be unsinkable
Unsinkable. And do you know why?
because it was the biggest ship
It was the
and it
biggest ship.
had a ton of compartments,
Watertight.
watertight compartments.
Very interesting. So it was really designed so that it wouldn't sink.
Yeah.
And yet it did on its first voyage. So I believe the Titanic was built by Harland and Wolff in Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland. Right?
It was 882 feet and 9 inches long, which is 269 meters. And it was about 3 city blocks, and it reached 175 feet in height, which is about 53 meters
Tall.
tall. Yeah.
That's amazing. And that is from the bottom of the keel to the top of the funnels, which are, I think, are those big, huge smokestacks, right? Yeah.
And it had a gym, a squash court, a Turkish bath, and a heated swimming pool.
Holy cow.
It had 16 watertight compartments with doors that could be closed remotely.
Okay.
So that is why it was called unsinkable.
Okay.
It carried about 20 lifeboats, which was only enough for 1,178 people, which was about half of the people on board.
I learned that the regulations for safety back then were based on the number of lifeboats that you were required to carry was based on the weight of the ship, not how many people were on it. I know. But you know what we found or at least I have learned in the course of all of the episodes we've done, is that technology improves often, right? And we don't update the safety regulations until something tragic happens from that new technology. So some of the examples that we've gone through are the molasses tank in Boston, right? They built this huge molasses tank. They found a way to do it, yet they didn't, the regulations hadn't caught up. The Dixon Bridge disaster, again, another one. The Hindenburg disaster. That's another example. Safety regulations hadn't caught up with really the technology. So it's not uncommon for these kinds of things to happen, which create safety regulations that make much more sense, right? And can you tell me a little bit about what watertight compartments are?
So basically, they're big compartments where if they get filled with water, the whole ship won't sink.
So so is that like if one of the compartments is breached, in other words, it gets a hole, they can seal that one off from the other ones?
Yeah.
Oh, so in other words, this ship had a bunch of watertight compartments. So theoretically, they probably thought it wasn't going to sink because even if one of those compartments had a hole, or even if two of them did, it should have been fine.
Yeah, but if 4 compartments or over had a hole, then it would sink.
Okay, so we kind of went past the tipping point. Okay,
And
tell us.
I think it had 6 compartments breached.
Oh, geez.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that would do it. All right, so tell us more.
So it set sail from Southampton, England on April 10th, 1912, and it was headed to New York.
Headed to New York City. Okay. So tell us what happened. So we've got all these people on this amazing boat. It's the biggest boat.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be unsinkable, and it's headed to New York City from Southampton, England on its maiden voyage.
Yep.
What happens next?
There were 2,240 people on board,
Okay.
and the collision with the iceberg was at 11:40 p.m. on April 14th.
Now, did they see this iceberg before they hit it? Did they have any warning?
They saw the iceberg, but it was too late.
It was too late to make any big moves. Why do you think it was too late if they saw it in the distance?
They did not have any binoculars, so they couldn't see.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Why didn't they have binoculars?
Because, okay, I don't know if this is true, but the person who's supposed to be on the lookout, he was switched out for another person, but he kept the keys to the binoculars with him. So then when the other layouts came, they couldn't unlock it.
Ugh, I heard that story, by the way. So you're not the only person who's heard that. I think that's true. And so even if you do see something off in the distance, what might prevent a ship from making the kind of evasive maneuver or steering away from it? Do you know?
If they rammed right in, like, straight for it, then they would not have sunk.
Oh, that's interesting. You think if they hit it head on, they wouldn't have sunk?
Because they went like left, so
Yes.
it's the right side.
They tried to avoid it,
Yeah.
and it hit the right side, and it did more damage because of that?
Mhm.
And what do you mean by more damage? Like, what is the problem with hitting it from the side?
Like, it tears open more compartments. If you hit
Got
it
it.
from the front, only like the front gets damaged, not like the whole side of the ship.
Interesting. So they did do a maneuver to try to get away from it, but that maneuver may have actually led to the sinking of the ship.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the challenge with driving a big ship or piloting a big ship is that once that ship has got momentum in the water, it's very hard to slow it down. Very hard to slow it down. So once they realized they were going to make impact with that there was a possibility.
Speed.
They were going really fast. Now, I don't know if you heard this, that Captain Smith was going too fast to be able, he was actually going faster than he was supposed to be going.
He was late to get there, so that's why.
They were running behind. Do you know why they were running behind?
Like a delay.
They may have had some delays along the way. Yep. So I heard that too, that Captain John Smith, is that his name?
Yep.
Yep. So Captain John...
it's Captain Edward J. Smith.
Captain Edward J. Smith. So I read that Captain Edward J. Smith was going faster than he should have gone. And he probably had a sense of invulnerability, like that ship was never going to sink, right?
Yeah.
So he could go really fast and not worry about it. He'd just break through anything that was in the way. But also I had heard that Captain Smith had a safety problem on another boat before that he had gotten into trouble for. So I think he might have been a little bit of a risk taker, but really hard to tell. Very easy to look back on someone's performance after a tragedy happens and then to look back and say, oh my goodness, look at all of the things that this person did wrong. When the reality is other people might do the same things wrong and just they don't have the same set of circumstances.
Yep.
Right? Okay, keep talking.
So it hit the iceberg in the North Atlantic.
Okay.
And 5 compartments got breached.
5, okay.
And it took 2 hours and 40 minutes for the ship to sink, like, completely.
Oh my goodness. Now I heard it listed to one side. Is that true? So do you know what listing is? Okay. So it kind of leaned to one side when those compartments took on water. And then was it the front of the ship or the back? The front of the ship went down and then the back of the ship was sticking out of the water?
Yeah, and then it broke in half.
Did it break in half before it landed in the water, do you know? Or did it break in half in the water? It probably broke before it hit the water. Before it sunk completely, I should say.
Oh, so like a little bit less than half of it was sunken and it broke in half.
Okay. And I found some really interesting eyewitness accounts about this. Are you okay with me telling some of that story? Okay. So one of the accounts was from a woman named Edwina Celia Trout. And I believe her maiden name, or in other words, her unmarried name was Mackenzie. She went by the name Winnie, which I love that name. I think it's so cute. She said,
I bought my ticket to be on another boat, but they canceled her sailing, and I could be transferred, so I got transferred to the Titanic. When I got on there, a woman said to me, "Do you know," she said, "this boat will never reach New York." Oh, I said, "Don't be saying things like that." Well, she said, "I can't help it, but it'll never reach New York."
I know. Yes, I know. And this woman ended up being her roommate on the boat.
Oh.
So she talks about just after 11 o'clock at night, which goes in line with what you were saying about the problem. She said she was in bed, sound asleep, when they came and called.
Well, all passengers put on your life preservers, go up on boat deck. So I went up on boat deck, and there was a lad there from Buenos Aires. I said, "This boat's going to sink."
Then she said, and there was a man there with a baby in his arms. Because, do you remember what they said about those lifeboats?
I didn't.
Who was allowed on the lifeboats?
Women and children.
Only women and children, which is unfair to men.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and there was a man there with his baby in his arms, and he said,
"I don't want to be safe, but it'll save this baby." And no one offered, so I said, "Well, I will."
So they ended up on lifeboat 13. And she said, as they were going away from the boat, because they tried to row away from the boat so they wouldn't get caught up in the suction that happens when something big goes down. And she said,
I couldn't take my eyes off it. You see her going, her lights are all lit. And see them, each row of light disappear, each row of light disappear. Finally, she went down. The scream when finally she went down, that scream was worse than any siren.
So it must have been everybody screaming who was on the boat and probably people who were watching as well.
Or in the water jumped off.
That's right, or people who jumped off in the water. She said, we were in a school of whales. There were whales surrounding her little lifeboat. She said it was an awful time. We thought our boat would be upset, She said, we got on the Carpathia, which is the ship that rescued them. Yeah. And it took us 4 days to get to New York. And the captain, as soon as we got on board, he had a service for the Thanksgiving for the living and a memorial service for the dead. And people were dying on board. And we had burials at sea. We had a school of whales, and it took us 4 days to get into New York. So do you know why people died in the water?
Hypothermia.
That's right. So it wasn't really the drowning so much in most cases. Yeah. It was actually that the water was cold. So do you know what the air temperature was that night?
Like negative?
It was about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 0 degrees Celsius. So that's freezing. And what happens when people are in water that is cold, and it doesn't even have to be freezing cold. It could even be the water in your bathtub if you stayed in it long enough, is that the water takes the heat out of your body. And that's what causes the hypothermia. And do you know what hypothermia means? It means your body temperature drops too low for your organs to function properly, right? Our body temperature is normally 98.6 degrees or somewhere around there, because people are a little bit different, right? But they're not far different from each other. It might be a little, like a degree off or something. But once it gets below a certain point, our bodies they can't function anymore. And so that's what happens.
Yep. Fully sank at 2:20 a.m. on April 15th.
Okay.
More than 1,500 people died.
Oh my gosh.
32% of the first class passengers survived, compared to 42% of second class and 24% of third class. And
do you know why that is the case?
Because there were barriers on the stairs of third class, so they couldn't get up. And even women in third class, they couldn't leave too.
So I heard that those barriers were not there to prevent them from leaving the ship in an accident, but they were there because there were different amenities, like different rooms that were available to different members of the different classes of the ship. So it wasn't necessarily that people intended to harm them in a tragedy like this. It was just that they wanted them not to use things like the squash courts and everything else. But unfortunately, because there weren't good emergency services, there wasn't a way for those barriers to be released during this kind of horrible accident.
There was a lack of safety drills and it was very confusing because it was so big. And you couldn't see anything because you couldn't see anything.
Because it was dark out?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
First Officer Murdoch on the starboard side allowed men to board if no women or children were nearby.
You allowed them to board the lifeboats? That's smart.
So 705 to 712 people survived. The rate of survival was only about 32%.
Oh boy.
And 74% of women survived and just 20% of men.
That's very sad.
The captain was called the Millionaire's Captain.
Why was he called the Millionaire's Captain? Because that's an interesting name.
Because he was very popular in the wealthy upper class passengers.
Oh. And I read that they like to try to go on to ships that were under his command. That's pretty interesting.
There was John Jacob Astor IV, and he was the wealthiest passenger on board, and he did not survive.
He did not survive.
Margaret Molly Brown, an American socialite who earned the nickname the Unsinkable Molly Brown, for helping others into lifeboats and urging her boat to return for survivors.
That's true.
Melvina Dean, the youngest passenger and 2 months old, and the last living survivor who passed away in 2009 at age 97.
Holy cow, that's amazing. So Granny Necklace, your grandmother, worked at Harvard's Widener Library. The Widener Library was funded by a woman who lost her son on the Titanic. So she built that to honor her son and her husband, by the way, who both died. Her son's name was Harry Widener, and he was one of the people who passed away on the ship. So you have sort of an interesting connection in a way.
The rock remained hidden for 73 years. So it was discovered in 1985 by Robert Ballard and a French-American team. The location lies 12,500 feet, about 2.4 miles below the ocean surface. 370 miles off the coast of Newfoundland.
So the depth there that you were talking about, that 2.4 miles, how deep is that in meters, Albert?
That is 3,800 meters.
Wow, that's very deep. That is crazy deep.
And a lot of artifacts have been recovered. It's being consumed by iron-eating bacteria.
That's right. So the longer it's under the ocean, unfortunately, the more decayed it will become, and the less of it there will be for future generations to see. Now, having said that, there has been some great footage taken of this boat and great exploration, but the exploration has been done with either remote vehicles or these vehicles that are very, very, very specialized to keep people safe because it's too deep for divers. The pressure from all of the water down below, which gets more and more pressure the deeper you go, would literally crush a diver. So they can't bring people down there to do stuff.
And now the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, the SOLAS, is ensuring that ships can carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board.
That's right. There's something so horrible about these tragedies, and yet in the wake of a tragedy like this, after the tragedy, we learn to do things better, right? So the hard thing is that we make incredible strides and gains. We learn how to build new things, bigger things, faster things. But of course, danger comes with all that, but we learn to do better. One of the things that I noticed was that this was obviously a story that hit all of the newspapers because it was something that was so tragic that people were really drawn to it. But like today, there was a rush to get the news out before they had all of the information.
Mm-hmm.
So even today, when something happens and there is a tragedy or something exciting that happens, the newspapers and now it's like websites and podcasts and TV stations, they try to get the news out before they have all the information. Well, there was an example of this or several examples of this in newspaper times with the Titanic. One of the ones that I read was that the highlight, or I should say the title of this story was All Titanic Passengers Saved. Liner Gashed, but all are rescued. So obviously they didn't exactly have it correct, did they?
Mm-hmm.
Another one said, liner Titanic kept afloat by watertight compartments being towed into Halifax, Nova Scotia. So there was such a rush to get the information out that these newspapers got it wrong. Another thing that I wanted to share with you that's pretty interesting was that this was such a captivating story that a lot of musicians wrote songs about it.
Sad when that great ship went down. Husbands and wives, little children lost.
Titanic was a ship just on her maiden trip. Sailed across the lake. Por chocar con un témpano gigante y no saber continuo manejar la nave.
So I wanted to do a quick exercise with you that I think
Okay.
could be interesting. Let's do myth versus fact.
Okay.
So one myth is obviously that the Titanic was unsinkable.
It's not true.
Obviously not true, right? It didn't make it. So, and as a matter of fact, it didn't make it through its first voyage. So definitely not the case. What's another myth you heard about the Titanic?
There was a cursed Egyptian mummy in the cargo hold, and that caused the disaster.
Is that true? Was that a myth or a fact?
Myth.
It's a myth. What was the truth?
There's no mummy. The legend likely comes from passenger William Thomas Steed, a spiritualist who told ghost stories about a cursed mummy.
Another myth.
So the myth is the White Star Line swapped the Titanic and with its damaged sister ship, the Olympic, and sank it on purpose for an insurance payout.
Is it a myth or is it a fact?
Myth.
Tell me what the real fact is.
It was underinsured for $5 million.
Okay.
Despite costing $7.5 million to build.
Oh boy. So they did not insure it for enough money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, that's tough. So the myth is that the band played Nearer My God to Thee at the very end while the ship was sinking. So is that a myth or a fact?
Kind of both.
Kind of both. Why?
So some passengers heard them humming it.
Okay, maybe they heard them playing it. Okay.
And others heard a different song.
Interesting. So, I am fond of a phrase that one of my old coworkers said to me years ago. Her name was Jillian. And Jillian said to me, Colleen, there are 3 versions of the truth. Yours, mine, and what actually happened. So what that meant to me was that everybody remembers things a little bit differently, or everybody sees things a little bit differently for lots of reasons. So that's interesting. This has been an incredible episode.
A bit of a longer episode.
It's a bit of a long, I would almost call this a special edition because this episode had so much stuff that you and I have talked about for years. And it is a topic that I think probably it'll be the most appealing to the most listeners that we've ever done.
We also have a YouTube channel called
That's true.
Here's World History.
That's right. So if you prefer to listen to it on YouTube, now we don't do video, right?
Yeah.
We don't record ourselves on video. But we might do that in the future. We have learned that there is a professional podcasting studio being built at our new public library.
Yeah.
So we'll look into that. But I am really so appreciative of your time today. I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for you doing this with me. So thank you.
You're welcome. This is Curious World History.
We will share links to all of these interesting resources on our website, which is curiousworldhistory.com. We wanted to give special thanks to Pony Horton, who allowed us to use his audio from his interview with the Titanic survivor. Thank you, Pony.